Each year, Colgate University emits over 14,500 metric tons of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. However, the university has signed a pledge committing to net neutrality of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions by the year 2019. Drastic reductions need to be made in the near future to meet this goal.
While much of Colgate's energy is produced by the combustion of wood chips, or biomass, the remainder is generated by a dirty, expensive source, fuel oil. While its combustion generates 35% of the university's emissions, it only accounts for about 20 to 25% of Colgate's heating capacity, and it costs the university nearly $800,000 per year.
We have a big problem meeting our academic mission if the energy fails. We can't keep buildings warm, we can't get hot water, everything ceases to exist. So we need a reliable energy source. And I think if you look at the entire life cycle of it, it's all bad. There's not a good thing about using number 6. It's probably the worst of the worst energy sources. It gets into way beyond environmental stuff.
The current number 6 boilers that have been in place really for almost 50 years in the heating plant must be replaced within the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
The EPA's new restrictions would outlaw such a replacement. Furthermore, fuel oil number 6 will be banned as a fuel source for institutions in the near future.
The university will have no choice but to find an alternative fuel source, necessitating an in-depth consideration of the other potential types of fuel.
The question was, what do we replace them with? And there really three alternatives have been investigated. The first would be to move wholly to wood chips. That market is currently a pretty stable market and reasonably low cost, but if we went entirely to wood chips and we had a supply disruption, we would be in the soup. Second is to basically rely on either number 6 or number 2, that is build new fuel oil boilers and rely upon that as the backup. That didn't seem, both from a cost perspective, fuel oil prices continue to go up, and from a carbon footprint perspective, particularly this number 6 that we burn has a very high CO2 output. So really, number 2 is a little better, but marginally so. A third alternative that we looked at is basically biofuel. Again, that's a real supply chain problem right now. There's currently not a reliable source that would be able to supply it in the volumes that we need.
The fourth alternative under consideration is natural gas. Colgate would install 2 natural gas boilers that can also fire fuel oil number 2 in case of emergency. Colgate would hook into the nearby interstate natural gas pipeline for their supply.
All of these fuels have a number of costs and benefits, but the research and key stakeholders currently involved have been leaning more and more towards natural gas as the most viable alternative.
By switching to natural gas, Colgate could save over $300,000 per year in fuel costs and over 1,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions each year. Compared with other alternatives such as fuel oil number 2 and vegetable oil, natural gas is the most economically attractive and lowest emitting option. Since Colgate is aiming for net neutrality by 2019 in carbon emissions, natural gas is most aligned with the university's direct goals.
This fuel oil number 6 is coming from somewhere. It's coming from wells that have had impacts on the environment. They may be distant from us, so we, kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I certainly think it's is it the ideal solution? No. Is it better than coal? Sure. I do see this as kind of a natural gas as an intermediate step that's moving us somewhat in the right direction. The impacts with natural gas of drilling and development, those are real, and they have to be considered in the context of all the other things that we do.
Wastewater pits wash out. There's been huge road damage. The gas companies have contracted to pay for part of that, but in one case they're now reneging on the payments. There's been unfair compulsory integration, which the DEC did not provide proper oversight on. So these are just little problems that we're experiencing already. And of course, there's always a concern that there'll be some sort of a blowout or a well, some sort of well explosion.
The DEC is basically saying, look, when this does move forward, we're only going to move forward at a pace that we can manage, we being the regulators. And so we may see very slow and I would hope, very thoughtful and cautious movement.
And there's already some divisions in the community that makes it hard for us to plan well for the future. And I've watched how the gas companies do business, and I think they're very keen on, they're not benevolent groups, they're very keen on exploiting weaknesses, and I think if we're not playing together as a community, we can put ourselves in harm's way.
In essence, support of natural gas must be conditional upon an insistence on higher regulations that protect both the environment and public health. Furthermore, any support of natural gas would have the caveat that it is still undesirable in the long run, because any fossil fuel is non-renewable and, as such, unsustainable.